How can a modern day manager not have a mobile phone?
Why should he?
So, welcome along to what will be a busy football show. Later on in the hour, we will talk to Mark Bennett. He is the author of Football Dynamo, Modern Russia and the People's Game. Russia opened the tournament tomorrow against Saudi Arabia. Russia ranked 70th in the world rankings, the lowest ranked team at the World Cup. And back when the tournament was awarded, Russia had just come off Euro 2008. It was the Arshavin generation, and they were talking about potentially winning the World Cup in home soil, and it's all gone horribly wrong in a whole host of ways. So we'll talk to Mark Bennett, who's written a brilliant piece about it as well in the Moscow Times, and try and figure out just how it's gone so badly over the last decade for Russian football. But we'll start with the story of the day. If you're listening on podcast, you've already heard Guillaume Balaga and Kevin Kilban over in Moscow give their take on things. So what about the reaction in Spain? We have Andy Mitten, who you'll know as editor of United We Stand and resident in Barcelona, on the line. Evening, Andy.
Good evening.
Thanks for joining us. So, well, nobody quite saw this coming. Oh, I see you've got books behind you. In this day and age, no one has. You not just got a Kindle. You've got a wall of books behind you.
I love books, and not just because I have a vested interest because I write books, but yeah, I've got hundreds of books, and most of them are about football.
No doubt.
And I say that, yeah, I love books, and I've got a new one coming out in about 6 or 7 weeks with Patrice Evra. So I'm just finishing that.
His autobiography.
Yeah. I've been working on that with him for 2 or 3 years, and we're just at the stage where the lawyers are reading through it at the moment, and they are busy.
He seems like an amazing character based on the 1.5 minute Facebook videos he tends to release from time to time.
He absolutely is, but there's another side to his life story which people haven't really seen, which contrasts sharply with what you see, the happiness on a Monday morning, and it's one of the reasons why I wanted to do the book with him, and I felt that he's intelligent, he'll speak, he'll tell his story. He's in Moscow, and he's going to Moscow actually to try his luck and do British TV. So he's a very, very interesting man with an interesting story, and that's why I've been involved in it. Very
good. Well, let's talk about that when the release date is upon us. So the news today is just quite extraordinary. Nobody really saw this coming. Nobody saw the Lopetegui news coming initially, and then when we heard the news last night, like we happened to have Graham Hunter on, who's ensconced with the camp. Graham didn't raise the possibility that he wouldn't see out the tournament with Spain. I certainly didn't even feel the need to ask, would Lopetegui be on the bench on Friday? I just assumed, well, of course he would. The Spanish FA might be a bit miffed. And suddenly, 12 hours later, he's gone. A quite extraordinary turn of events.
Yeah, I've just seen a Spanish journalist colleague of mine who's in Moscow, and like Graham is with the Spanish team, and he used 2 words which I think I'd go with, was surreal and sordid as well. Nobody could see it coming. Nobody could see Real Madrid appointing him as manager, and the chain of events, once lit, just sparked extremely quickly. And I've been in Spain today absorbing the news, the media. I'm in Catalonia, where people do actually support the Spanish national team. There were parties here when Spain won the World Cup in 2010 or were European champions in 2012. The Catalans are proud to play for Spain, despite the perception of some people. I think there's only one who's refused to play for Spain. And there's been a host of memes, ranging from people saying that this is Florentino Perez's way of colluding with Cristiano Ronaldo ahead of Spain playing Portugal on Friday night. Clearly that's light-hearted. What Spain have lost is a manager who's done very, very well since he took over, and he was a surprise choice when he took over, but he'd done a lot of good work with the under-21s. A lot of the players knew him. He's been in charge for 20 games. He's not lost a single game. They beat Argentina 6-1, won 14 matches, scored 61 goals, conceded 13. This is a man who gave Spain their zest back. I spoke last week to Carlos Queiroz about Spain in quite detail, and he was highly complimentary about the Spain of 2018, the way they press. He went beyond the cliches of talking about them obviously having great players and great midfielders, and I dare say that he saw the news today and had some sympathy for a fellow manager. Carlos has been on the receiving end of Real Madrid. But most people in Spain they're baffled by what's gone on. I don't think that Real Madrid have covered themselves in glory. I think the manager will be very frustrated that all his hard work, which is done, the point where he's now examined, he can't sit those exams before going on to Real Madrid. It's left a bad taste for a lot of people. And from looking and seeing reactions in Spain, there are a considerable number of people who think that the federation made the right decision.
Right.
That he shouldn't have been announced as Real Madrid manager yesterday, and I can see the point there.
So give us a sense, firstly, of what it's been like in Spain today, because certainly in this part of the world, we've cast a memory or two back to 2002, and as you can imagine here, I mean, the country came to a standstill. We had like the Taoiseach on national television saying he was willing to go out and broker a deal. There was like the government jet on the runway. Anything could have been happening politically. It was by a distance way down the news cycle. It was literally the biggest thing that had happened ever in the history of the world. So is Spain completely at a standstill, at a loss? I mean, what can you give us a sense of how high up this has gone? I don't suppose the King's talking about it, is he?
Not yet, but Spain also has the politics as well. There's been major ruminations in the last couple of days. Spain has had a new prime minister.
Right.
The minister for sport has lost his job. And when I saw the coach leaving Russia today, there's a part in Roy Keane's book. It's a brilliant introduction to a book where Roy's in Saipan and the whole world is buzzing around him, especially people in Ireland, as you know, and Roy's been Roy, he's keeping himself to himself, he needs to check on the plane, and somebody just comes up to him, I think he was English, and said, "Do you want a cup of tea?"
Yeah.
And that's all he needed at that moment.
Yeah.
And when I saw Julen leaving today to go back to Madrid, his head is probably all over the place, and I can't speak for Roy, but his head probably was as well as he was leaving Saipan, because he was massively conflicted. And it reminded me a little bit of that, because you're on the eve of the competition. I think Ireland went into 2002 in really good form and good shape, and there was a lot of confidence there. I saw some of the qualifying games. Keane was spectacular.
Yeah.
And Spain are among the favourites. I mean, it's my job to write about football and speak to people off the record, and they were unanimously saying he's doing a really good job. Maybe he didn't have the charisma of Luis Aragonés or even Vicente del Bosque. And maybe he had to prove that he was a great manager, because when he tried club management, it didn't work out for him in Porto. But I spoke to lads who played with him for Spain's under-21s. They said he was a very steady hand in charge of this sublimely talented collection of players. If you look at some of the players who didn't make the Spain squad, Juan Mata or Ander Herrera, they're getting most international teams, and he was doing a good job. When I spoke to Ever about France, it just seemed to be conflict all the time, because you've got these egos, and in Spain you've always had these inter-club rivalries which worked against the national team. You have them with England as well. So for a long time you had Barcelona and Real Madrid players throw in the Basques, because that's there are big, powerful clubs up there as well. And it was the main reason why Spain, despite being a great football country and having all these great players, never did anything internationally. Yeah. And they overcame that. And I think the messages that are coming out of the camp in the last couple of hours from people like Piqué and Sergio Ramos and David De Gea, a little bit, I'm sure, is them being told what to do, but they're also bright enough to put their own opinions across, to say, we're not just going to become flops and fail because we've lost our manager here. Yes, it's unfortunate, but we're still really, really good.
And what's it been like in the media over there today? What's it been like in Spain or Catalonia today?
Well, the Catalans would always have a slightly different take on the Spanish national team, although they would have to be a little bit careful, because Catalonia is full of Spaniards, because in the 50s and 60s there was massive internal immigration, and only 50% of people, including Catalans, want independence. When I was here, when Spain was winning the World Cup, European Championship, and there were big parties, you do see Spanish flags on the street. So the reaction in Catalonia and I've been watching television images on Madrid, and I've been listening to the radio. Shock.
Right.
It's surreal. It's real. It is shock. However, I think they will get over it far more quickly than the Keane thing, because the national team is stocked full of world-class winners who are at the top of their game now. They all get on with each other. Fernando Hierro is very well respected. Clearly, the story's not going to go away. If Spain win everything, everybody will be saying, well, the manager didn't need to do anything. If they have a bad start, like they had in Brazil, and that was a shock when they did so poorly in Brazil, then it will all come back to the manager. He'll get more criticism. Why did you allow this to happen?
Yeah.
Madrid will get criticism, and I think it would be valid criticism.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. By the way, we're still not over the Roy Keane Saipan thing. Make no mistake, that's going to be at least 50 years. So I do want to ask you about Rubiales, the president of the Spanish Federation. But on Lopetegui and what you've seen of him in the media, what you've heard about him, like this measured guy, you said there, and fairly controlled kind of a character. What the hell is he thinking? Is the question I had this morning when I saw the fact that he had only told the Spanish Federation 5 minutes before Madrid go global. Guillaume Balaguer was saying, so first approaches on Friday, they chat over the weekend. Monday he's agreed the deal with Madrid, effectively doesn't tell the Federation until 5 minutes before Madrid go global. What the hell is he thinking? How does he think this is going to end well? How does he think this is going to be received? How can he not convince Madrid to hold their fire on the announcement if he's given some kind of agreement or some kind of verbal or physical agreement that he's going to become their manager? What the hell is he thinking?
And there are other conflicts here that Spain players are suggesting to Madrid that he is the man to take over. And I think that he's got it wrong. I don't think anyone wanted it to come out like this. But Real Madrid are used to being this steamroller who just plough through everything with an arrogance which a lot of people like. And I've spoken to Xavi Hernandez about Real Madrid's arrogance, and he said, I really admired it. Right. They're like, we're Madrid. You know, everyone else can follow us. And they steamroller in the media as well. They dominate the news, and they're quite happy to do that and leave everybody trailing in their wake. They trample over people. But trampling over Spain, when you're the biggest club in Spain, that's risky. That's slightly different. The Spanish national team are very, very popular in Spain, as you would expect them to be, especially this group of players. And Madrid are the most popular team in Spain, but half the country despises them. And I don't think that Florentino Perez has handled it well. I think if he had ideas of, it's only the World Cup, we're Real Madrid, we're actually bigger than the World Cup, we're bigger than Spain. Well, they probably are bigger than the Spanish national team, but how have Real Madrid come out of this well? Yeah. And now in the last hour or two, I'm seeing suggestions that Madrid want to unveil him as manager tomorrow. I think that would be so disrespectful to the Spanish national team.
It seems that's happening. I saw Sid Lowe tweet there that they're having the unveiling tomorrow, which I just can't believe this is happening. So okay, Perez and Madrid are this like their own entity and have a skewed perspective and everything. Lopetegui, how has he not said to Madrid, let's hold our fire on this, let me talk, maybe we have to announce it in a week because look, people gossip and rumours will start for sure, but how has he, do Madrid have so little respect for this guy who was probably so desperate to get such a big job that he acquiesced to all of their demands, including the announcement and now this unveiling? Like, how has he not managed to say to Perez, look, I mean, I can't really announce this in this manner? Like, that's the astonishing thing.
It is astonishing, and somebody has leaked this, and I don't think anyone's benefited from it being leaked. There was pressure building against Madrid in the last 2 or 3 days. There were people saying, it's almost 11 days since we won the Champions League. We're about to go into a full-blown panic because we don't have a manager. Right. This is not how Real Madrid should be doing things. The fuse is so short at Barcelona and Real Madrid for anything, for any event. Stories have a life cycle of 24 hours. So fine, identify your manager, line him up, but it becoming public, I think, has been very dangerous, and I don't think it has helped anybody. And he'll be on a flight back to Spain now, and I'm sure he's thinking, I've spent the last 2 or 3 years working for this just to walk away from it. It's really sad on so many levels.
I'm sure, yeah. I mean, man, if you had given him a list of things to predict last Thursday, he'd have done well to come up with this. So I guess, look, you understand to an extent Lopetegui's predicament. Real Madrid come, it's Real Madrid. I mean, nobody says no. when realistically might they come for him again? Who knows? So he goes along with it, and he's in this situation. Which brings us to Luis Rubiales, then the president of the Spanish FA, who's only in the job a month. He has to deal with this absolute shitstorm. He doesn't have to sack him. So, Guillaume Balaguer felt that his feeling on Rubiales is that he's a bit of a macho guy. He doesn't want to feel, you're not going to slight me here. I'm not going to look like anybody's chump here. And almost ego and anger has prevailed on his part, and he hasn't even listened to the players who told him today, it seems, led by Ramos, look, I appreciate everybody's a bit upset here and angry, but let's not do anything too rash. Let's stick with our guy for the tournament. And Rubiales has even gone against the players. So your sense of him as a person, your analysis of what he's done here?
Football is full of ego, it's full of emotion, it's full of passion from the fans, from within the dressing rooms. Things are said all the time that in the heat of the moment, I hear so many stories that don't make the media, where I think, wow, that would just be headline news straight away. Because you're dealing with all these alpha males who've got to the very top of their trade. And by having some personality traits where they're so competitive, it's almost at the cost of everything else. So I can see his perspective where he's come in. And he doesn't want to be a wet flannel. He's, I'm the man, I'm in charge here. You've slighted us. You've been massively disrespectful to us. You've told us 5 minutes before unveiling it to the world that my employee is not going to be my employee. The timing of it's disgraceful. If I would have got the call, I think I would have been furious as well. Do you then step back and be, as an experienced manager and leader of people, which the boss of the Spanish Federation should be, try and strip some of the emotion out of it, try and seek different opinions, try and get a considered response, or do you do what he's done? I'm in charge. You're extracting the urine out of us here. You're going, and it's almost like he's gone for the nuclear option straight away, and the players have almost come round and said, we're united, we've got the new manager in. And the story can almost blow over within 24 hours if Spain to play well and beat Portugal, as they well could on Friday. But I do wonder whether any of them will step back and think, have I acted in haste? I think they've all made mistakes here. Madrid have made a mistake. But Madrid, it's like with Manchester United or Liverpool, the big English clubs. People are looking for ins and for leaks all over the place. And if something gets out, with the way that the news can spread so easily now, I'm sure there's a backstory where Madrid felt under pressure to go public. And I don't agree that they did do, but the chain of events, what has happened, has been unfortunate for all parties.
Across the media all day today, where I presume it's one talking head after another, is there panic? Because talking to Kevin Goban earlier in the show, talking to Guillaume Balaguer, even my own sense probably is that footballers are selfish beings. And actually, I'm not overly worried about Spain. You kind of think they'll shrug this one off quickly enough, digest it. It's not like anything new was going to be put before them over the next 48 hours by the manager. They'll kind of be okay here, is the feeling, naively or otherwise.
Yeah, I go with that. I don't think that Gerard Piqué is going to have a stinker of a game on Friday night just because someone who would have been 80 yards to his right on the side of the pitch is no longer there. I do think that he did make very nuanced changes to the way that Spain play, which were effective. It wasn't a fluke that they came through a group with Italy and won that group quite easily. When there were a lot of doubts about Spain, after what happened in Brazil, which was not a successful tournament for them. But yeah, you've got these alpha males, and I'm sure they're going to bed tonight and thinking, we're going to prove people wrong here. This can almost bring us together. And a lot of the national teams, they don't have a togetherness which appears on the outside. And I think that the Spain team, they are pretty together. They are genuinely good friends. Even the pantomime rivalry between Sergio Ramos and Gerard Piqué, Madrid, Barcelona, is there a better central defensive pairing in world football? They're highly effective together. And I think that if they get a good start and they win, they can go through and do very, very well in the tournament. And then people will be saying, well, how important is a coach? Is this a guy who just needs to tinker ever so slightly? Where's he earning his money? Is it in the 75th minute where he can see that Isco is a bit fatigued and he needs to bring him on? Because his eyes are seeing something that David De Gea's not seeing. And I think that will become apparent in the tournament. Yeah. Fernando Hierro, great player, hugely respected by the Spanish players, top man at Madrid, went to England, did very, very well at Bolton Wanderers.
Yeah.
His career as a coach has been more checkered. I think it's a year to the day since he left Real Oviedo in the second tier. But football's full of stories like this, and the outgoing manager of Spain is one of those stories because he failed at Porto. Luis Enrique at Roma, was he a success there? Roma fans wouldn't say that he was.
Yeah.
He won the European Cup with Barcelona 2 years later.
Hierro was obviously a brilliant player, a real leader. You know, like he was just such an obvious leader. Even Kev was remembering playing against him in 2002, and he was just clearly the main man, the adult in the room. So what kind of character is he? Like, does it kind of tally with what we felt he was off the pitch?
Yeah, I think so, but not someone who closed his mind to thinking Spain is the only place for me. I think it was to his credit that he went to Bolton, which is not the most fashionable of English clubs, learned English, made a good impression with people. I spoke to people at Bolton Wanderers about him, and I think that I know that the players respect him. I don't know how good a coach he is.
Right.
I don't know when he's put up against Brazil or Argentina or Belgium in the quarters or the semi-finals, whether he's got the magic to make a difference or whether he even needs to make a difference, because maybe his players will do that for him. And look at the Spain team. De Gea, he's incredible. Isco, who's central to that team. Probably the best player I saw against Manchester United last season was Isco in the Super Cup. When he's playing well, as he often does for the national team, Spain can dominate teams. They've done it in the group. Problem is, if it starts to unravel, then I think the psychological side becomes a problem, because then doubts creep in. And you've got an environment where you've got 35, pretty much all of them are men apart from 2 female media officers. They're in a hotel, they're in Russia, the weather's completely different to Spain. There's slights, there's perceived slights. I spoke to Eva about what it was like being in South Africa in 2010 in the French team and going through it bit by bit, and you think there's no reason why that had to blow up like it did do.
Yeah, it's the Big Brother house effect. It's it's just you didn't make me tea, and off we go. I am waiting for the moment where someone, PK, says, did Florentino Perez ask you what Lopetegui was like, Sergio? I wonder if he did. Like, if you're Perez, do you ring Ramos and ask him what do you think? I think maybe you do. And I guess a win against Portugal puts a lot right. That's what makes this opening match even more intriguing now.
Yeah, a win against European champions Portugal with Cristiano Ronaldo. Yeah. I mean, it's become the biggest game already of the group stages, and I think that the people putting it out on Spanish terrestrial TV won't have any problems, because everyone wants to see what happens now.
No, it's amazing.
That is a delight of football. And when you step back from it, you think, well, it is actually only football. It is only a sport. Yeah. But it doesn't feel like that. I'm sure it didn't feel like that when Roy Keane decided to pack his bags.
It was no big deal. No, yeah, I hear you. So which one of those books behind you on that wall of books are you recommending if you could only read one?
I like, what do I like? Well, I've got a lot of military history stuff there.
Right.
So I'm sure you might find that might be an interesting one. I've been recommended that about Dublin in 1916. Blair
Wills, is it?
Who's written that one? Claire Wills,
Claire Wills.
I mean, lots of Man United ones there.
Naturally.
Lots of sort of general football ones there. Loads of different United ones. I'll tell you if the... I'm not currying favour here with people watching this, but Cascarino's book was superb. Both of Roy Keane's books were superb. Paul Kimmage's books on cycling were superb, and that's enough compliments for Irish literature this evening.
We'll take that. Listen, thanks for making time for us. What an interesting day, and I'm sure we'll chat to you over the tournament. Thanks a million, Andy.
Great to talk to you. Take care.
All right, see you. Bye-bye.
Football on Off the Ball.
In association with the faster than ever BoyleSports app. Multiples made easy and personalised content on every sport. Download it now. BoyleSports. Time to play.
Newstalk Breakfast.
Apparently, studies indicate hugs may reduce stress and blood pressure and protect against the common cold. I'm guessing you're not a big fan of hugs.
No, I'm not a hug fan. I just don't.
You give your wife a hug, obviously.
On a special occasion, maybe. Cheek kissing. It's
a tricky one, isn't it? And inevitably you get somebody's ear.
It's bonkers.
And then
when people go for the double, I think they're looking for the shift.
Newstalk Breakfast.
In association with Air.
Weekday mornings at 7 on Newstalk.
At Appliances Delivered, we'd like to say thanks for making us Ireland's highest rated electrical retailer on Trustpilot. 5 stars. And we still have the lowest prices in Ireland guaranteed. Like some competitors, but we offer more. Next day delivery nationwide. Choose your own delivery date. Free removal of your old appliance and a team of customer service specialists. But we couldn't do any of it without you. So thanks from appliancesdelivered.ie, Ireland's highest rated electrical retailer.
Maeve loves to travel. She's also prone to overpacking, getting sunburned, and snoring surprisingly loudly. But last month, she helped 3 people sell their home with Sherry Fitzgerald, and another 5 the month before that. You may not recommend her as a travelling companion.
Aloha!
But as an estate agent, she has exceptional local knowledge and really cares about getting the best outcome. Sherry Fitzgerald, the agent you'd recommend to a friend. Selling your home? Visit sherryfitz.ie.
There have always been many great reasons to choose a Volkswagen, and for 182 we have 3 more. Non-existent rate PCP finance, technology upgrades and purchase contributions of up to €2,000. Visit your local Volkswagen retailer during our 182 open event June 7th to 16th. We make the future real. Conditions apply. Purchase contributions only on finance contracts. Offers only available on models registered by July 31st. Volkswagen Bank GmbH Branch Ireland is authorised by the Federal Financial Supervisory Authority in Germany and regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland for conduct of business rules.
It's time for summer at Dunnes Stores with our Better Value 6. 6 fresh fruit and veg for only 49 cents each. This week's selection includes summer salad essentials, mango, cucumber and avocado. Save even more when you use our €10 off every €50 grocery voucher. Dunnes Stores, always better value. Terms and conditions apply. See in store for details. Minimum spend required.
Dad, you're the best. For Father's Day, I went to the perfume shop with Mum to buy your favourite aftershave, Eau de Lacoste Blanc. They wrapped it for free, and it's way better than Mum's wrapping. Eau de Lacoste Blanc with 175ml was €90, now 47. Shop in store or online at theperfume.com/IE. Offer ends 17th of June while stocks last.
Bruce Betting are one of Ireland's leading bookmakers. Download the iOS app today to see why Bruce Betting are giving you more for World Cup 2018. Bruce Betting, your World Cup bookmaker. In store, online, and now on your phone. Please gamble responsibly. See dunlewy.net.
Off the ball. This is Newstalk.
You're welcome back. So we'll leave Spain, I think, for the time being, and it is World Cup Eve. So it's finally here. It's one of those amazing things, actually, when it finally arrives, when you talk about it for so long. And we're going to kick off with, I dare say, is just about the worst opening game in World Cup history. We have Russia, ranked 70th in the world, against Saudi Arabia, ranked about 67th. So the lowest ranked team against what I would presume is the second lowest ranked team in the tournament. Kick things off tomorrow before Spain and Portugal. To discuss why Russia are the lowest ranked team in the World Cup, quite unbelievably, really, we have Mark Bennett with us, author of Football Dynamo, Modern Russia and the People's Game, who also has written a very interesting piece in the Moscow Times. Mark, you're very welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Good evening.
Where in the world are you now?
In Moscow.
Okay, naturally, makes sense. So, look, you make the point in your op-ed piece in the Moscow Times that when Russia was awarded the World Cup back in 2009, it was just a year after the Andrei Arshavin-led Russia team in the Euros. They got to the semi-finals. There was a sense, I think, amongst the Russian football fraternity that, God, with home advantage, Russia could really do something at the 2018 World Cup. And somehow, over the past decade, all that hope and all that quality has been obliterated. What has happened in broad terms?
That's a kind of difficult question to answer, really. I think maybe it's more logical to ask why the team in 2008 was so good, because basically that was an anomaly. Since the collapse of the Soviet Union, the Russian national team has been awful. pretty much, apart from in 2008. That was the only time they managed to get out of the group stages, either the World Cup or the Euros, when they qualified. And they've only actually ever won 2 games at the World Cup since the Soviet Union split up. So, although while that generation was quite talented, and obviously there was a lot of optimism around when they got to the semi-finals, the fact that they didn't sustain it, while sad for Russian football supporters, isn't that much of a surprise, really, because, like I said, they don't have a particularly glorious history.
So why did that generation emerge?
They were just lucky. I think it wasn't maybe perhaps why did that generation emerge, but I mean, they had Gus Hiddink was their trainer at the time, and he just seemed to click with the team. And he wasn't like a kind of like the stereotypical kind of strict Soviet manager, and he let them play and he let them express themselves. And they happened to have like 3 or 4 quite talented players at the time who worked well together, or Hiddink found a system that made to help them work well together. And now, although there's a couple of like fairly good players on the side, they don't seem to have any belief in themselves. They don't seem to have a system that works, and it's pretty rubbish, really.
Is it fair to say that, and I think it is, but I'm sure you'll correct me if I'm wrong, that the USSR were a brilliant technical team and did lots of very good things, and for some reason in post-Soviet Russia that has not quite replicated? So is that the case? Are there theories as to why that might be the case?
Yeah, I mean, the Soviet Union side was obviously a lot better. They had some very good trainers as well. Lobanovsky, Ukrainian manager. And also, I mean, the Soviet Union wasn't just Russia. A lot of the key players weren't even Russian.
Sure.
They were Ukrainian, Georgians, and Russians as well, obviously. But I mean, when you lose like such tens of millions of people, potential footballers, and then they didn't just lose those players; they also lost the state system, which had kind of nurtured those players. You know, I mean, the immediate years after the collapse of the Soviet Union, people had more important things to think about than football, mainly like how they're going to feed their families, how they're going to stay alive,
sure,
how they're going to survive, basically. So when all the government institutions were collapsing, all the social safety networks were collapsing, it was kind of only logical that the system that had kind of discovered and nurtured young footballers would also collapse.
That said, they do still have a population of 144 million people. And one might suspect that at some stage, with still such a rich heritage of football, they may have at some stage turned their attention to trying to put together a decent football team or decent academies, or done something about the situation. And I mean, you know, I'm sure they enjoyed reaching the semi-finals in 2008. Has there been no concerted effort to try and put together any kind of academies or anything at clubs to try and bring through another 08 type generation?
Yeah, there's been National Football Academy was opened, and the clubs have say they're doing more, but the rumours are that, and most people accept that, to get your kid into a good team, you need to like pay the coach,
right,
or pay a friend of the coach,
right.
And also the scouting system. Wow, it's probably better than it was like 20 years ago. Russia still, although it has a very big population, it's also a very big country. I mean, it's the biggest country in the world, yeah. So if you're a kid playing in a village near Siberia, it might be the next Messi. But if no one discovers you in 2 or 3 years, when you're at your peak, anything could happen to you. Now you get drafted into the army, you could start drinking, give up on football, play hockey, whatever, you know. So that said, I mean, Russia are the lowest ranked team right now not because I think that they're any worse than they were usually in the past, or a lot of games, but because they played a lot of very good teams in friendlies. They played Brazil, France, Germany, or France and Spain. Yeah. And there's the argument that they shouldn't have played such strong sides, because it's kind of sapped their belief in themselves.
Right, okay, interesting. Because I did see at the weekend, they played a weakened Turkey side, which maybe was an opportunity to try and change the mood music around the team, but they had a pretty disappointing 1-1 draw. And even on state television, the quote I saw was that the commentator said, "What a pity that when we're finally hosting the World Cup, we will be represented by the worst national team ever." So is that hyperbole, or you kind of seem to feel they're about as bad generally as most Russian teams, and not much worse, bar the 08 team?
I mean, it's hard to say. It's hard to judge bad things, isn't it? It's something quantifiably worse than something else. But mean, result-wise, we'll just have to wait to see how they do. But they haven't got much competition, because I mean, Russia don't tend to do very well at the World Cup or the European Championship. So I mean, but getting out of the group at home in such a kind of like on paper weak group would be, I think, a major disaster for Russian football.
Yeah. Are they a team that, I mean, maybe not just specifically this team, but Russian football, generally the national side, does it attract a lot of criticism? Are people endlessly disappointed and angry with it, or is there almost a certain apathy at this stage?
I mean, the Russian national side for years has just been the kind of favourite butt for comedians' jokes.
Right.
There's a lot of jokes about it. At this stage now, I think not quite so many jokes about it, because like people are used to the fact that they tend to lose and they tend to go out early. But like I said, for years, I mean, when a comedian wanted to make a joke, get a cheap laugh, he would just turn to the Russian national side and make a joke about them. There was a famous one when Ronaldo, as in the Brazilian Ronaldo, not the Portuguese guy, has a famous joke where Russia were playing Brazil, and Ronaldo says, "It's okay, you guys take a rest, I'll take this on a lot on my own." Half time comes, Brazil are leading 3-0. 20 minutes into the second half, Ronaldo goes off with an injury, but Russia managed to pull back 2, go down bravely 3-2.
Okay, right. So, do you think they'll get out of the group? Is there a confidence? Uruguay, Egypt, Saudi Arabia?
Don't think. I have my suspicion that they won't get out of the group.
Yeah.
Because I don't think Egypt, if Salah's going to play, if Salah's playing and he's in form, he could get a hat-trick against Russia. I think they'll beat the Saudis, possibly, like 1-0. And then I think they get hammered by Uruguay. So I think it's fairly likely that they're going to go out. I mean, it'd be quite nice to be proven wrong, I guess. Although I kind of like the Egyptian side as well. But I don't know. It will be disappointing for Russian fans if they do go out.
Yeah,
it will kind of kill the mood.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it generally helps if the home nation can have some even minuscule piece of joy at some stage. It's generally not a bad thing for the mood, especially when you're spending so much money on hosting the party. And I see just 2 players in the national squad feature outside of Russia. So, are there kind of extra get-togethers and camps, and have they been kind of almost preparing for this as a group, or have they just been generally on club duty as any other player might be?
Well, the Russian national team has camps. They're kind of infamous for their camps. They're kidding kind of relaxed a little bit, but generally they're locked away and grilled and they're put through. I spoke to one Russian footballer, and he said if sometimes they felt like they were training us for the special services rather than for the national team.
Right.
That kind of Russian footballers talk about them, mixture of awe and fear. They're called as bori, means, and they're just locked up together in like hotels very far from anywhere.
Right.
And just made to train every single day, and they have special times when they have to go to sleep. Another guy who was on one compared it to the Overlook Hotel in The Shining. With footballers stuck together in this hotel somewhere with nothing to do for weeks on end. And about the lack of foreign-based players. There's actually more foreign-based players than there were at the last World Cup when there were none.
Right, yeah.
I think the 2 foreign-based players who are there now, they're actually born abroad anyway. So they just happen to be Russian.
Is Vladimir Putin a football fan?
No, not really. He's not really into football. If they say he's towards Dynamo Moscow, because Dynamo Moscow has just kind of traditionally been the side of the security services, and as an ex-KGB officer and former head of the FSB, it would be only natural for him to support Dynamo. But he doesn't make a big show of it, and he doesn't seem to know much about it.
Right.
I think he just likes prestige, really. He likes kind of showcase events.
And so you sort of made the point in your piece in the Moscow Times that, say, 10 years ago, there is miraculously and luckily this something approaching golden generation who make the European semi-finals, and at that stage you're about to be given the World Cup and the Russian economy is on the up. It is a bit of a downer 10 years later to have the Russian team back to its general level, and the geopolitical situation is such that There is it feels like another Cold War on. There are economic sanctions against Russia. A population of 144 million has an economy 2/3 the size of Britain, whereas 10 years ago there was great hope for the Russian economy. Is that a general feeling in the mood, or is the country just bloody excited like any other country would be to host the World Cup, do you suspect? I appreciate I'm asking you to speak on behalf of 144 million people.
And I'm not even one of them.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think it's been interesting to observe it, actually, because obviously it was a long time when Russia got the World Cup, so most people have forgotten about it until last year.
Yeah.
And initially there wasn't much excitement at all, because, football doesn't really have a very good reputation in Russia. There's never been any kind of intellectualization of the sport. It never became like a kind of like middle-class pastime. You don't really get many families going to games together. And for most people, kind of football is just seen as game for kind of drunken hooligans, drunken louts, maybe, thugs. People have even said to me, like, how can you like football? You're clever. So there wasn't that much great excitement, apart from among football fans.
Yeah.
But now even, the last few days, it's finally kind of when all the foreign fans have started to fly in, the Mexicans in their hats and the Peruvians jumping around and the Argentinians. There's like slightly World Cup fever, I would say, is beginning, and it's kind of been noticeable as well. The traffic police are a lot more polite. People in shops seem to be a lot more polite and smiling a lot more. The women in the metro miraculously discovered that they can speak English, and they have "We speak English" signs at the metro. So I think there's definitely a concerted effort, first on the behalf of the authorities, put on like a very positive image to create a good impression of Russia. And I think that like the locals are getting into it as well. I think everyone's quite excited. I was at a hospital actually this evening. There was a slight accident, but not for myself, for someone else. But and the hospital staff were telling me how many foreign fans had been at the hospital already. There's been 10 already today. 3 women. There was an Irish woman, a Swedish woman, and a Spanish woman. And they were betting on which foreign fans would be injured the most during the World Cup. they were going for the Argentinians, I think.
Right. Okay. I'm not sure what the Irish woman's doing there, but we wish her well. That's interesting. I guess that's a symptom of any World Cup. Wherever you go, people do ultimately want to put on a bit of a show and put their best foot forward. And that hooligan element that you mentioned obviously has been much publicised in the media over here. Is that going to rear up, do you think, across the tournament, or will security be such that just will not be a feature?
I don't think it will be a feature. I don't think. Maybe there'll be some violence, but I don't think it will be anything on the scale that we saw in Marseille. Because while a few pro-Kremlin politicians quite enjoyed seeing Russian ultras, hooligans, whatever, kicking people's heads in France, they don't want to see the same thing going on in Moscow, because it's a showcase event for the new Russia, or a showcase event for Putin's Russia.
Yeah.
And, hooligans stomping on people in central Moscow or wherever isn't part of the agenda, And so accordingly, the security services have been warning hooligans that they have to stay in their flats, leave the country, or just make sure they're like somewhere where they can't get into any trouble. And so a lot of them have actually been leaving the country, like known hooligans have been leaving the country so that they can have stamps in their passport to show that they weren't actually in Russia if anything happened.
Okay,
there's
interesting.
almost 500 people on a blacklist as well.
Okay, and I guess Russia is the kind of country, if you're given a warning about something from the authorities, you tend to listen.
Well, the Russian security services, for the Russian security services, civil liberties isn't really a priority, So, they've been telling them, if anything happens and you're involved, you're going to go to prison on like an old charge that we'll just pull up, or they'll just invent a new one.
Yeah. I was actually funny. I was reading during the week, the Russian courts have I think 95% or something in that territory, 95% prosecution success rate. If you go to court, you're probably going to be found guilty. Is
99.2.
99. Okay.
That's for criminal case.
Okay. And so one other point I was just curious about then, before we say good luck, is the cost of this thing. Obviously, Sochi cost 50 billion. What percentage of that was necessary would be an interesting question. Do we have any idea of the cost of this World Cup? Is there much grumbling about the cost of hosting it, hot on the heels of Sochi?
Well, firstly, the 50 billion figure for Sochi, that was reported, but there wasn't any real concrete reporting behind the figure, and then everyone just latched onto it. And the truth is that no one knows how much was spent on Sochi. It could have been a bit less, could have been a bit more, but it was a lot. But 50 billion was just a convenient figure for the media. There's been a lot of this World Cup. The government said 11 billion, and a Russian, very respected Russian newspaper today said put the cost at 14 billion. I saw estimates of 19 billion thrown around, but it hasn't been anything like Sochi. And I don't think there's going to be much grumbling really, because there are bigger things to grumble about in Russia.
No doubt.
Some money on the World Cup. So if like story reports of like massive corruption and torture and killings haven't done anything really to stir massive discontent nationwide. I don't think a predictably bad performance by a Russian national team and a bit of corruption with the World Cup is really going to annoy people too much. There'll be some grumbling among sport fans.
But there's bigger fish to fry.
Jokes for years to come, but
yeah.
I think Putin's not going to be brought down by
it. No, I think that's a fair point to finish on. Listen, Mark, thanks so much for your time. Mark Bennett, author of Football Dynamo, Modern Russia and the People's Game. Thanks so much for filling us in on all of that. We'll take a short break.
Off the Ball on Newstalk.
Looking for new dinner ideas? Why not take the plunge with Irish mussels? They're easy to cook and easy to enjoy. Just add garlic, a dash of chilli and serve with pasta. Pick up in store from the fish counter or in ready-to-cook packs. So go on, flex your muscles. See recipes at boardbia.ie/fish.
At Expert Electrica, we're always bringing you the latest appliances and technology. From now until the 24th of June, when you buy a Smeg range cooker, you'll receive a Smeg stand mixer worth €420 free of charge. With 67 stores nationwide, there's a local expert near you. Find yours at expert.ie. Terms and conditions apply.
At Centra, we are celebrating summer with fantastic offers across the store. Dust off the barbecue and get grilling with barbecue mix and match meats, 3 for €10. Fresh summer berries, perfect for long evenings, 2 for €5. And summer wines, like selected rosé and prosecco, only €8 each. Centra, live every day. Enjoy alcohol sensibly.
Dacia would like to say thanks a million. Well, thanks a 5 million, because now there's been 5 million Dacia sold worldwide. Dacia, a lot of cars. See what I did? Now you can purchase a Dacia with 0 deposit and just 4.9% APR. Dacia, great offer. Did it again. So, Dacia wrap for me. One more. Visit your local Dacia dealer or visit dacia.ie. Finance is made under a hire purchase agreement. Terms and conditions apply. Deposit required. Subject to lending criteria. See dacia.ie. Vehicle sold worldwide since 2004.
60 beers you haven't tasted before, 23 international breweries, 1,500 guests, and you all add up to one Hagstravaganza, Ireland's only international brewery festival. Running across July 27th and 28th in the White Hag Brewery, County Sligo, this is the ultimate craft beer experience for the ultimate craft beer lover in Ireland. Tickets €30, including booking fee on thewhitehag.com and eventbrite.com.
Proudly supported by Newstalk.
Sale, and still more sale. Bargain Town's biggest ever sale continues with fantastic bargains in every department. The Bargain Town sale continues.
Put the brakes on searching for car insurance yourself. Visit chill.ie, get your quick quote, and you're away. Chill Insurance Limited, trading as Chill Insurance, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Off the Ball. This is Newstalk.
Okay. So let's all try calm down after that. We are pretty much done for this evening. Tomorrow morning, OTBM is live, 7:45. You can go on to youtube.com/offtheball, facebook.com/offtheball. Follow us on Twitter and watch it all. John Duggan will be in Russia. Alan Quinlan will be on as well. And then World Cup Daily, 12:30, again on all our social channels. And we're back tomorrow at 7. Nathan in the hot seat. John Giles will be in studio fresh from watching the opening game between Russia and Saudi Arabia. And we'll also have David Brady and Ray Silk looking ahead to the Connacht final. So that's basically us tomorrow. And of course, it's day 1 of the World Cup. So general happiness all around. Tom Dunn is on the way next. Good luck.